Hello my friends, channel My Book Buddy. Please interact with the channel, like and subscribe. Preface by Dr. Sheikh Yusuf Al-Qaradawi, head of the Center for the Illustrious Sunnah and the Straw of the Prophet at the University of Qatar and a member of fiqh academies in the Islamic world and Europe. Praise be to God and peace be upon his chosen messenger and his family and companions, the leaders of guidance. To continue, it was more than half a century ago that I first came to know my dear friend Dr. Izzeddin Ibrahim. Through various Islamic activities and seminars and meetings for research on topics of Islamic thought. Also through being colleagues in teaching and administrative educational work. I was always struck by his affable nature, orderly mind and wide range of culture. Also his ability to work constructively in initiating various cultural projects in an unassuming manner. It is just such qualities as have fitted him for so many positions of distinction and the accomplishment of such work as the setting up of programs of study and the compiling of textbooks for the Ministry of Education in Qatar, the establishment of the Cultural Foundation in Abu Dhabi, holding the post of Professor of Arabic Literature at Riyadh University, being for some years the rector of the University of the United Arab Emirates, organizing and administering the Islamic Solidarity Fund at the Organization of the Islamic Conference, and participating in organizing and running the Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Organization for Humanitarian and Charitable Works, and his assistance to African Americans in their religious activities and for his lectures in Arabic and English in various venues and innumerable other activities. I knew Izzeddin first of all and through him made the acquaintance of Abdul Wadud Dennis Johnson Davies. Abdul Wadud Dennis Johnson Davies was well known as a man of letters, especially in the fields of translation and literary criticism. He had lectured on English literature and Arabic translation at Cairo University and later became the pioneer translator of modern Arabic literature, providing translations of books by such figures as Tawfiq al-Hakim, Naguib Mahfouz and Tayyib Saleh. He has also translated religious works by such writers as al-Imam al-Ghazali. When Izzeddin Ibrahim and Dennis Johnson Davies met, they agreed to work closely together on making accurate and acceptable translations into English of various religious texts. It is recognized that Islam's message is a universal one, as is expressed in the words of the Almighty. We have not sent you, O Muhammad, except as a mercy to the worlds. The Prophets 107 also say, O people, I am the messenger of God to you all. The Heights 157. And if Islam is universal and the Book of Islam and the words of its prophet are in the Arabic tongue, how in such circumstances can universality be achieved? 9. The answer quite simply is that it must be done through translation. However, not any translation will do, for only too many renderings of the Holy Quran have distorted its meanings and marred its beauty. In some cases this has been done deliberately, while in others it has been due to the fact that those undertaking such translations lacked the necessary linguistic skills for a proper understanding of the Holy Book. Thus Izzeddin and his colleague were determined that the translations they had in mind should combine two essential qualities: accuracy on the one hand and an elegantly readable rendering that would come as close as possible to the original. They felt that by cooperating together this could be achieved alongside Izzeddin, whose native language is Arabic and who has a mastery of English. There would be an Englishman whose native tongue was English and who at the same time had a mastery of Arabic. Thus each translator would complement the other and the end result would be arrived at through discussion and consultation. The two of them decided that initially their efforts should be directed towards making translations into English, the most universal of languages and the one known to the majority of Muslims, of some of the prophetic hadith having attracted less attention from translators than the Holy Quran, of which translations did exist in forms which were at least acceptable, but the Sunnah is a veritable ocean. Where should they start? Of old it was said that making a choice was part of a man's intelligence. Thus, while praising Abu Tamim for his outstanding poetry, critics have also praised him for his choice of the poetry contained in his well-known anthology. entitled Al-Hamasa. They thus chose for their first book the famous short anthology of Al-Imam al-Nawawi entitled Al-Nawawi's 40 Hadith, it being a collection that has been universally accepted throughout the Islamic world. When the translation was completed, the book was made available to the public and was immediately well received and has since been reprinted more than 20 times. The publication of al-Nawawi's 40 Hadith in an English translation encouraged others to pursue the same method of translation and to produce renderings of the work in more than 10 languages. For their second book they made a short anthology of that particular type of hadith known as Quds-T. Hadith Quds-T are known for their special spiritual quality and are words of the Almighty though spoken by His Prophet. May the blessings and peace of God be upon him. They have the characteristics of prophetic hadith rather than those of the Holy Quran and contain concepts of divine significance, leading man to a love of God and His glorification, and to an expectation of His mercy and a fear of His torment, thus prompting him to do good and to avoid evil. Seldom do such hadith comprise directly practical rules. This book, entitled 40 Hadith Quds-T, was also well received and is often reprinted. These two books have been followed by a third volume to which it is my pleasure to write this preface. The present volume is a condensed form of the famous, the Goodly Word, a collection of hadith made by the renowned scholar and jurist Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, to which a brief commentary has been added. This book has been chosen because of the obvious need for a book of prayers and supplications which the ordinary Muslim who depends on English would require for the demands of his daily comings and goings, for those various situations in which a man finds himself: a gust of wind, sudden rainfall, facing up to illness, and the advent of death, all of which are occasions where a man is in need of particular supplications to the Almighty, for supplications are the very core of worship. In fact, they are worship itself as the messenger of God, may the blessings and peace of God be upon him, has taught us. Many are the volumes, both long and condensed, that contain such prayers and supplications, some of which have explanations and commentaries that extend to no less than 7 volumes, as for instance Ibn Alan's commentary on al-Nawawi's book, al-Adhkar. The choice of Ibn Taymiyyah's The Goodly Word was made because of its reasonable length and the compiler's discerning choice of material, also because Shaykh al-Albani had already traced the sources of the hadith quoted in it, specifying those that were either authentic or good, which were the majority, and those that were weak. However, only those hadith that were authentic or good were chosen for the present compilation and all others were deleted. The book has been provided with explanations to those words and phrases in the Arabic text that require them. The tracing of the hadith to their sources was omitted from the first edition, but I understand that it has been retained in the second, which I am glad about. Additionally, the book contains an introduction outlining the importance of prayers and supplications, mentioning what has been written on this subject in all manner of books, also explaining why the Goodly Word was chosen and what work has been done on it. The introduction also demonstrates that prayers need not necessarily be limited to mathur material, i.e. those recognized supplications that have been handed down. The justification for such a practice has been derived from the teachings of hadith itself and is supported by the rulings of renowned scholars in the field of fiqh. Furthermore, the introduction confirmed the need for producing translations of prayers and supplications so that people might worship in their own languages. It is further pointed out in the conclusion to the introduction that the important thing is for worship to be by prayer and supplication, with an understanding of the meaning, and with the participation of the heart in due humility, and that God Almighty should be turned to with urgent solicitation and with confidence about His good response, while care should be exercised not to articulate unacceptable expressions that may contain, without the person knowing, words that are incompatible with the glorification of God Almighty. The Muslim should strive to make an effort to maintain such conditions in his prayers and supplications and should have recourse as far as possible to the Arabic tongue. On the other hand, He who is unable to acquire a knowledge of Arabic, should know for certain, when talking to the Almighty in whatsoever language, that he is addressing a God who is all-hearing and all-knowing. The Almighty has said, "And if my servants have asked you about me, verily I am close by and hear the prayer of him who prays when he prays. So let them pay attention to me and let them believe in me so that they may be rightly guided." The Cow. 286. The two scholars have other projects in mind that aim to provide an understanding of prophetic hadith to readers who do not know Arabic or whose knowledge of the language is insufficient for understanding such texts. The most important of these are the following two books. 1. That most well-known work by al-Nawawi entitled, Riyad al-Salom. It is a long book and they have already started work on it. 2. A new abridgment of Shu'ab al-Iman along the lines of al-Qastanel's abridgment of the large book, al-Jami, li Shu'ab al-Iman by al-Hafiz al-Bayhaqi, which deals with the authentic hadith. Faith is some 60 or 70 branches, the highest of which is, "There is no God but God," and the lowest of which is, "The removal of something harmful from the road," and bashfulness is a branch of faith. The substance of this is that faith is given expression not only in doctrine, nor yet only in worship, but comprises doctrine and behavior, also worship and conduct, be it one's conduct towards God, towards oneself and one's family, towards society, the ummah, or the whole of mankind, or towards the whole of the universe around one. However, the most important work on which they are presently engaged, and which they would hope to finish, is a book they have entitled, Readings from the Holy Quran, classified according to subject matter. They have so named it because they felt it would not be appropriate to call it, Selections from the Holy Quran. The term, selections, gives the impression that what has not been chosen is in some way inadequate, whereas the Holy Quran is wholly beautiful, complete and sublime. In conclusion, nothing remains for me to say other than to thank the two scholars for the work they are doing for the benefit of their fellow Muslims and to ask God to guide them in their good work. Praise be to God, first and last, and may the blessings of God be upon his Prophet Muhammad and his family and companions. He who prays for God's forgiveness. Yusuf al-Qaradawi. Hello my friends, channel My Book Buddy. Please interact with the channel, like and subscribe.